Imagine a superpower so wealthy that its scholars were paid in gold, an empire so vast it made Western Europe look small. This was Songhai. For centuries, it was untouchable. Until a Spanish eunuch leading a group of renegades marched across the world's deadliest desert to steal it. The fall of Songhai wasn't a slow, tragic decline. It was a 120-minute car crash, and it all ended with the most bizarre tactical disaster in military history, a stampede of cattle. This is how an empire collapsed in a single afternoon. By 1590, the Songhai Empire was the peak of West African civilization. From the city of Ga, the Askia dynasty controlled the flow of salt and gold. They weren't just traders, they were the gatekeepers of the Sahara. But wealth creates a target. To the north, Morocco was suffocating. Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur was broke. He looked at the map, saw the golden glimmer of Timbuktu, and decided on a suicide mission. He didn't send a massive army that would never survive the desert. He sent a specialized strike force. Think of them as 16th century Navy SEALs, quality over quantity, with absolutely nothing to lose. The force was led by Judar Pasha, the Spanish eunuch I mentioned earlier. Captured as a boy and raised in the Moroccan court, he was now the Sultan's most ruthless commander. He led 4,000 men, 150 days of sand. Most of them were Spanish and Portuguese renegades. They weren't fighting for Moroccan pride, they were fighting for a paycheck. And they carried something the Songhai had never faced in open combat: the arquebus. The march was a nightmare. By the time Judar Pasha reached the Niger River, half his men were dead. The survivors were ragged, starving, and haunted by the heat. On paper, they were already defeated. When Emperor Askia Ishak II heard they had arrived, he wasn't worried. He had 40,000 men. He had the best cavalry in Africa. He had a home field advantage that had lasted for generations. He thought he was going to a massacre. He was right. He just didn't know who was being massacred. On March 12, 1591, the two forces met at Tondi B. Look at the visual. On one side, a sea of 40,000 Songhai warriors, spears gleaming, horses neighing, a wall of human might. On the other, a tiny, dusty square of 2,000 Moroccans. Ishak II gave the order to charge. The Songhai cavalry thundered forward. The ground shook. This was the moment history changed. The Moroccans didn't move. They didn't brace shields. They simply leveled their metal tubes. The air grew still for a heartbeat. Then, boom. The first volley didn't just kill men, it killed the Songhai's morale. The roar was a physical blow. The air turned to soup, thick with acrid smoke and dust. Horses weren't neighing anymore, they were screaming. The smell of sulfur mixed with blood. The Songhai had seen guns before, but never this. This wasn't a skirmish, this was an assembly line of death. Every time the Songhai regrouped, the crack of the muskets sent them spiraling. The cavalry, the pride of the empire, was being shredded before they could even get within spear range. Ishak II realized his empire was slipping through his fingers in real time. He needed a miracle. He looked at his supply lines and saw his final card: thousands of cattle. He ordered the herdsmen to drive the beasts into the Moroccan lines, a living tsunami of horn and hide. He wanted the sheer weight of several thousand terrified cows to crush the Moroccan formation. The ground started to tremble. A wall of muscle charged toward the Moroccan square. Judar Pasha was staring at his own death. His men were looking at him, fingers trembling on their triggers, waiting for the order to run. He didn't run. He raised his hand. He knew the secret of gunpowder. It's not just about the bullet, it's about the noise. Fire. He ordered a synchronized volley directly over the heads of the cattle. The result was instant chaos. The cows didn't care about the Songhai's plan, they cared about the thunder. The herd shied away from the fire, turned 180 degrees, and charged back into their own masters. The Songhai army wasn't just defeated by the enemy, they were trampled by their own wealth. The rout was total. Ishak II fled into the night. In a single afternoon, the administrative heart of the empire was gone. Judar Pasha marched into Timbuktu. He expected to find mountains of gold. But he learned a hard lesson. The wealth of Songhai wasn't in piles of coins in a vault. It was in the system. It was in the trade routes, the safety of the roads, and the stability of the markets. By invading, Morocco had killed the golden goose. The libraries were looted, the scholars were chained, the trade routes became hunting grounds for bandits. The system was now ash. Morocco won the war, but they lost the prize. Within years, they couldn't even afford to keep their troops in the desert. They withdrew, leaving behind a power vacuum that fractured West Africa for centuries. The fall of Songhai is the ultimate warning for any superpower. It wasn't that the Songhai weren't brave, it wasn't that they weren't organized, it was that they brought yesterday's tactics to tomorrow's war. In the 16th century, they learned a lesson that we still haven't quite mastered. The moment you stop innovating, the moment you rely on your natural defenses, you've already invited the invaders in. The empire that was built on gold and salt ended in smoke and a stampede. History doesn't just move, it lunges, and if you aren't ready for the crack of the musket, you might just find yourself trampled under the weight of your own legacy.